We have a follow-up question here from Andy. He says, thank you for your advice regarding training high school boys from episode 52 of the podcast. I also asked a question along the lines of how to encourage more students to lift even though gym work outside of lessons is non-compulsory. I would focus on the kids who show up when it's not required. That's my hint. That is the best advice I can give any strength coach. Work with the kids who show up and want to work. But we also have to train an entire program. You asked me to provide you some feedback on the typical relationship this age group has with their bodies. So I've identified some common themes. You know, Andy, this really would make a great article, and I wouldn't mind helping you publish it. Listen to this, folks. The majority of boys want quick fixes. Boys want quick fixes. You know, mesmerize women with, these 3 secrets. Boy, it's getting worse as I get older, this idea that everything can be a quick fix. Folks, very few things in life can be fixed quickly or gained easily and quickly. They want to put on size, lose fat, get faster. They haven't yet come to terms with the fact that they need consistent training first. Their training is way too sporadic. It's interesting, I was reviewing this book the other day, Dan Cleather's great book, The Little Black Book of Training Wisdom, and it really comes down to just that. Number one on programming, number 1 on coaching is consistency. That's it. That number 1, and I don't know if there's actually a number 2. Show up and keep showing up. So getting that lesson across is difficult, and the truth is, a lot of high school boys and girls squander this unique opportunity for athletic excellence by skipping and doing other things. And I get it, there's a lot more fun things to do than 5 sets of 2 in the front squat. Number 2, there's often a lot of talk about cutting as they tend to follow bodybuilding physiques, social media personalities, thinking about aesthetics over performance, health, and longevity. Yeah, that's just the truth of it. I would have a much bigger following if I wore a sports bra and leaned over more. I'm sure that I would not be eating when I do that. Maybe, if I spent half of my posts, showing people my ripped abs, which are usually not done naturally, by the way. People often forget. I know of several, people who do really well on social media, and I'm thinking of one young lady. She can't be near a candle, a lit candle, if you understand what I'm trying to say. There's a lot of plastic, and yet that's what sells. Common sense doesn't. So I don't know how to fix that. The third, there isn't necessarily a problem with obesity, and in fact, many of the sporty students don't eat enough. Yeah, and it's interesting because I have dealt with the same issue. A girl passing out one day, and I asked her what she had eaten, and she said, I had 7 French fries, and it wasn't 7 servings, it was 7. She was trying to maintain doing a club sport, and I think she was a middle distance runner on 7 French fries. There just wasn't enough engine in her system. There wasn't enough gasoline in her engine. I don't know how to fix that. And the problem is, if you take a few years off in your life and you put your body in that kind of mode, a starvation mode, the body is then going to respond by holding on to as much fat as it can. This is going to sound horrible, and I'm a terrible person, but I've been teaching long enough. Many of my first students are in their late 50s. In fact, some of my first athletes are in their 60s, which just stuns me to say out loud. And I've been able to track them kindly. I don't write it down. I don't say anything. But a lot of the young ladies I've worked with have really struggled in their adult life with obesity because of kind of the patterns laid down in those teenage years. So that's an issue we need to really talk about their, like you said, long-term health and performance, long-term health and their longevity. The next one, there's a general lack of athletic ability, quite a few postural issues. That's one of the things, and it's interesting, I spoke highly of Irish physical education this past year in a workshop, And I had so many Irish go back. Our physical education programs are good. And I said, well, yeah, they're very good. They have no idea the focus on what we pedagogy, the movement of the human body, how a person moves. One of the things I think really helped me early in my coaching career is that we took very seriously sprinting technique at the football program I was coaching. And it was fascinating because here you are working with high school boys, very good athletes, and working on their sprinting technique carried over into every area of their athletic performance. It could be as simple as, Andy, focusing on sprint techniques. Practice, since all the kids want to get faster, they want to get leaner, just showing pictures of high-level sprinters, they're ripped to shreds. It might be sprinting. I know Mike Boyle's doing more and more on this, and I agree wholeheartedly. Now, there's a difference between wind sprints and garbage work and high-end sprinting. I would like you to find I believe the name we used was the McNair system, but there's a lot of other sprint systems out there. Find a good one that you trust and start teaching the traditional sprint moves. And by the way, being fast, like Coach Mon once told me, you only recruit two things, speed and smarts. You can teach everything else. So speed is king. Your next point, there doesn't seem to be much willingness to improve. Yeah, well, that's just I gotta say human nature. When people ask me, how do I knock out so many books? I tell them, I write every day. And then, well, what's the secret? The secret is I write every day. What's the secret to getting your lifts up? You got to lift a lot and often over a long haul. Getting people to understand that simple truth is just a tough one. Many people like to slide. In my college work, I'm constantly dealing with my students cut and pasting work and then saying it's their own. It's just part of human nature. And the funny thing is that like Earl Nightingale teaches us in Lead the Field, that's kind of why it's so easy to rise up to the top 5%. And that's really my goal in every single thing I do in life. Get into the top 5%. It's really hard to be number one. As a writer, it's a little bit difficult to knock Shakespeare off the top with my weightlifting books. But it's pretty easy to get in the top 5% of published authors of all time. And then finally, and this is something I dealt with too. Girls seem to be embarrassed to put effort into what they do, and it almost seems to be cool to be lazy when they are together in group gym sessions. I dealt with that in a very simple way. I had a co-ed class, and then I had a girls-only class. Now it's interesting, I didn't have a boys-only class because the counselor said that was sexist. Same counselor said a girls-only class was okay. I'm not very good at math, but I went along with it. The nice thing about the girls-only class is I think it made me a far better coach. The adolescent girl likes to talk all the time. So that's where I came up with, like for example, with the daily Turkish get up with a cup of water here. Every day, I had a bunch of coffee, those styrofoam coffee mugs in there. We use the same ones every day. And poured we would start class, I'd be pouring half a glass of water in there. And the reason I did that, Turkish get up with the coffee cup right here, is to get them, I can do a better job, is to get them to focus. I also noticed that my female athletes could handle a ton of volume in the lower body. And even though I'm generally against like lunges and things like that, and again, people don't listen to my nuanced point about that. But in that class, Bulgarian split squats with the weight in the suitcase position, the rack position, and the waiter walk position, overhead position, were a standard part of our daily warm-up. Goblet squats, overhead squats, squat. And then I focus my time on, and the young ladies love the ab work. But my goal was to get them stronger in their upper bodies, so the pressing programs. Andy, all I can say is I hear you, I appreciate you, and that's just the kind of the joy of working with adolescents. He has a follow-up statement finally. I do have a few really good groups of students who are really great to coach and are eager to learn, but I have my work cut out for me as I'm the only strength coach in a school of over 1,000 students. And Andy, this is just a life truth. Those kids who really want to train and get better and get harder, get stronger, give them some individual attention, pat them on the back. Real quick, and I know I'm going a little long here, but when I was doing religious education work, there was this thing we used to use. It was a series of concentric circles. And here in the middle is what every church has. About 10% of a church does all the work. And then there's the outer group, people who show up on Sunday or Saturday or Friday. And then there's this outer group of what we call Christmas and Easter. They show up twice a year. And then there's the whole community, the rest of the community. And what I discovered when I looked at that, it was also absolutely mirrored a typical track and field program. You got a group of kids who'll do everything and anything you ask. You got those kids who show up and it's they're and then practice over. If I said we're going to run 2 hills, at the finish of the 2 hills they were walking home. Never stick around for anything. Then the kids who just wanted to put it on their whatever it is, resume for college, and then the rest of the student body. What I tried to do, Andy, was I looked at my team and I said, okay, here's my kids who'll do everything. So I'm going to kind of focus on them because those are going to be the ones who are going to be national champions, state champs. But what I want to do is encourage at a doorway for those kids who show up every day and just say, okay, what are some things I can do to get you in this 10%? And then I looked at the kids who showed up randomly. How would I work on just getting them to show up every day? Now, I don't have a ton of tricks except for talking about it. My good friend Lacey, she will tell you that when she came out for track her second year and unbelievably dropped her times in the distance races, in our team meeting, I stopped and I said, and I pointed to her and I said, folks, this is the difference. This is what training the off season does. This is what showing up does. This is track and field. Look at this time and then compare it to last year's time. Folks, this is amazing. She said it was a transformational moment in her life, and it also impacted every single student in there because my other athletes wanted to be called out publicly in a positive way. And maybe that's it, public and positive. And I like it because there's an alliteration there. Great question. I know this went really long, but hey, it's a great question. Thank you.